Hello.
Coach K, how are you?
I'm good. How are you? It's Thursday.
Fabulous. Yes, yes, yes. Good, good. Sorry, I was just talking to bloop. Okay.
Oh,
Sorry.
no, you're good. I knew we were about to talk in like a second anyway, so
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
good.
Cool. Let's see. Well,
So,
welcome. Happy Thursday. And I don't know for your end of town, we actually had snow again here today in Minnesota, but it was last week, it was 80 degrees. So go figure, huh? 81
I
day.
I'm used
Uh,
to that kind of weather. It
oh,
just
really? Yeah.
it just switching from one thing to the next, and it's like, how is that even n- by nature is that
Right.
possible?
How's that
We
possible? Right. Right.
we don't have snow though. No.
Yeah,
Ooh.
it's crazy, but I'm used to it. Not the extreme 80 and then cold, but warmer one day, snow the next.
Is
It's
it humid?
Minnesota. Not yet.
But
Our summers will be. Yeah, summers are hot.
Oh, I got you there then,
Yeah.
yeah. Mm-mm.
I lived in the South. We didn't, it was dry heat,
Right.
so it didn't feel the same. It could be 110, but here it'd be 90, and it's just ugh.
It's unbearable. That's
Yeah,
a good
yeah.
point. That's a good point.
Let's see.
Alright.
I'm looking to see if we have people who joined on. Sorry, we were a couple minutes late here. Do we
Haven't
have anyone? No, not yet.
not just yet, but I'm sure we'll have some strolling in.
Oh yeah. Tonight's topic, it's it's a sensitive one.
I
Um,
felt woke and I was like, "Oh, uh-oh."
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But
But
I'm excited.
I'm excited too. And let me start out right away. Um, how did they say it in the TV land? The views and the views and ideas of our show tonight may not necessarily reflect the network, Black Man
Right.
Unfiltered Network. And actually, I think our views are in alignment with the network. And our goal tonight is not to spark any type of controversy in any of those things, but this topic is sensitive and we will keep it authentic and real. But again, the goal is not to get into, at least not like political stuff and all that. But just want
Right.
to say up front, our views may not necessarily reflect the networks. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. Our goal tonight is really just to have the conversation and to actually talk about a pocket of people or a group of people who are within what we call current society or the woke society or modern day, and really looking at how are people managing relationships with these new policies, new procedures, new laws, and not all of them are new, but being what would you say being enforced differently now.
Yeah.
So we want to have that conversation to see how it might be impacting any of your relationships, home, school, work, yourself. So that's the goal.
Yeah, and what I love about having this conversation and why I'm excited because it's not because it's going to be controversial and drama, which it's not going to be.
Right.
Obviously, it's us,
Right.
but from our point of view, me as a coach, you as both a coach and a therapist, we get to challenge really any idea, but specifically these, or offer a perspective that is going to allow people to grow, maybe hear something
Mhm.
different that's challenging.
Yes.
But I would say come in with an open mind and you'll be surprised. And sometimes when we do feel a little tug of discomfort or like we want to get defensive maybe, and again,
Mhm.
I don't know where we're about to go, but I'm just imagining. But when you
Right.
have a little bit of that discomfort, it's a sign that something might be there. I don't know,
Hmm. Hmm.
but
Hmm.
you'll definitely gain something from this show. I'm excited.
Yes. Good. Good. You know, let's look at the title. So, coping with the complexities of the woke culture in troubled relationships. And I just want to highlight what that troubled means. So I think every relationship, including the one with yourself, there's a point where we're going to run into a snag, a conflict, trouble. And the trouble is really how to is when we're trying to navigate through those complexities. That's the trouble. So it doesn't mean you have a bad relationship. It doesn't mean one person is bad or something is someone is wrong, someone is horrible. I'm talking about the troubled waters or the trouble in navigating through these complexities. There are a few reasons why we usually run into those troubles. Not feeling heard, not feeling understood, not feeling acknowledged, and not feeling validated. All right. So, not feeling heard, understood, acknowledged, and validated. And what's interesting enough, the same way a person in a relationship, including with themselves, may not feel one of those, part of this woke culture is about people who didn't feel heard, acknowledged, validated, and then a certain group of people or an agenda was they were able to position themselves to feel heard. And once heard, how was that message pushed out? So that message got to be pushed out. It got to be spread out all over. And then people who heard it and who felt like they fit in that category of not feeling heard, acknowledged, validated, that got a chance to grow. That got a chance to grow. But if we look back at what woke culture is and what it's about, Coach K, do you by chance do you know the history of that term really about being woke? Do you know by chance?
Not specifically, and I thought of looking into it before we started, but I have an idea, but I'm not even going to say anything. You share with me and the audience.
Well, I don't know how many years ago, but forever in a day that I remember, as far as being a black man, we talked about staying woke in the black community as a way to say, watch out, be careful, protect yourself, because we live in a world of discrimination. We live in a world of prejudice. We live in a world of hatred. And we live in a world where you never, ever know what's going to happen. How are you going to be treated? How are you going to be responded to? Stay woke. Keep your mind conscious. Keep your social awareness up. Stay alert. Stay woke. Don't let them catch you sleeping. Okay. Uh, Now, what's that old expression? Never let them see you sweat. Right? You remember those?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, similar to that, you don't get caught slipping.
Right.
Now, it also had some slur affiliation to it too.
Mm.
So, in other words, some gang banging, some criminal activity, some stuff that's not meant to be out there in our little small group or whatever. You need to stay woke so we're not getting caught up in the system.
Mm.
So, but again, at the end of the day, is still meant for your awareness to be sharp, for you to be aware of what's going on, and not and avoid getting caught up or letting someone get you caught up.
Gotcha. Hmm.
Now, back in the day, that involved a multitude of things. I can only speak to either my experience or what I remember, and some of what I teach now or support clients now. But what I support clients with now are modern day things. But back in the
Mm.
day, it was interracial dating. So dating outside of your race, specifically the black man dating a Caucasian female,
Hmm.
you need to be aware of what comes with that. You need to be aware of the potential risk of her family rejecting it, institutions feeling some kind of way about it, and Johnny Law feeling some kind of way about it, and how you can get caught up. You need to stay woke. In fact, did you see the movie? You heard of the movie called Get Out?
I have heard of it.
Um, I can't think
I
of the
haven't
actor's
seen like
name.
any movies. I'm just gonna warn you now.
Uh
Blackman already
huh.
knows this. I have not
Yeah.
seen hardly like anything,
uh,
I swear. But yeah, I've
Get
heard
Out
of
the
it.
movie. It was actually pretty popular. I mean, in 2017, and the actor Daniel Kaluuya. Um,
Okay.
but he was dating Caucasian female. It's
Jordan
kind of
Peele,
a
yeah, he wrote
yeah.
he
It's
wrote
kind of a
yeah.
well, I can't think of the word. Anyways, it's drama and all this, but it's mixed with some kind of spooky stuff. But pretty much, he got caught up in this with this girlfriend, whose family would actually
Ooh.
do stuff to black people. So,
Mm,
in a
mm,
sense, back then, stay woke meant was if you're in an interracial relationship, you need to know what comes with it.
mm,
Jobs, working a certain job, what they say, working for the man, working a certain job, you need to know what comes with it. Systems, you need to be careful. So there were women who were having babies and in agreement or not with the father, depending the service they were trying to get, anything from welfare all the way to whatever other type of benefits, medical benefits for the kids. But the job, maybe it costs $500 for the family care, but
mhm.
might be able to get it through the system. So I'm not going to report who the dad is, which for the system, they're like, well, if there's no father, single mother, we can get you some of these services. But again, stay woke to what that means. Do I get to sign the birth certificate? Oh, I don't get to put my name on it because you don't know who the father is. I put my name on it. You do know who the father
You're
is,
right.
right? Child
Yep.
support. Stay woke. The system's going to take everything you have. They're going to try and trick you when you get down there into saying my name, blah, 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 blah. So, again, a lot of this about awareness and survival. Awareness and survival. All right. That's my understanding of stay woke. Let's see if some people in the chat have a different or an additional. See if we have anyone who might have a different or additional understanding. What's up, Mo Gaming? Thank you for being here.
Yep.
Much appreciated. And thank you,
Because
CBN, for your tech
CBN.
work from behind the scenes. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Again, welcome everyone to the Black Man Unfilters Network. I'm Dr. Nakumbe along with Coach K, and we're here
Mhm.
tonight talking about coping with complexities of woke culture in troubled relationships of
That's
all
right.
kinds, including the one with yourself. So we were just
Right.
talking about what woke is, and so anyway, that's just my understanding or definition, at least for what it was in the past. Current
Oops.
day. Hmm? Uh,
I said oops because it started to play
oh, okay.
the YouTube.
Current day. So, what have you heard about current day wokeness, Coach K?
Um.
I mean, or have you heard like in the news? Have you heard that term? Have you heard some of the
Yeah.
arguments?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think Mo's Gaming, he put something good in the chat.
Oh, let me see. Let me see what it says.
He said society redefined the word woke. Now woke has become more of a cult like religion. Um
Mm,
when I hear the word woke used, sometimes I'll say it's used in kind of like a bad faith way, I would say, like, because I like to approach especially controversial topics, from a genuine place and from a place of understanding. So,
right.
for example, let's say someone could say, "Oh, well, interracial dating," like let's say someone says they support that. Someone I think coming from bad faith might say that's woke,
Hmm.
but I wouldn't call that woke.
Right.
But like anything that's kind of supported by just like progressives, I guess,
Hmm.
um, from see, I'm already like, um, we could just say from like LGBTQIA,
Hmm.
like anything really related to that community, um, any type of, I guess, expression of something that you support.
Hmm. Hmm.
Depending on what that is.
Right.
I like you've heard of the Overton window, right, Dr. Nakumbi?
Hmm. Hmm. Yes.
So I like to use that as a reference, at least in my mind, for like what people consider like woke or whatever. So
Right. Right.
I don't know if that even
Now,
answers your question, but
real quick, where did you see? Oh, okay. It's just now scrolling. I was gonna say, where did you see that comment? Mine must be scrolling. Ah, there we go. So actually, Corey's in the house. Good evening to you.
Mhm.
I didn't even see all this. I just saw the Instagram for you. So now I see where Mo was
Okay.
talking about that.
Oh, yeah. You make sure you hit, like, live chat because that helps too sometimes.
Oh yeah,
Sometimes
that's what I need to do. Yes, 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 yes.
I forget to do that.
So anyway, let me get back. So anytime, so when I was talking about the people, the history with Black people saying stay woke and stay aware, it was really about protection and also about feeling separate from, feeling separated, feeling less than, feeling not heard. So if you take this now current day version of that, there are people who feel like they're not heard, and the stay woke movement has really been about we are going to be heard. We are going to be heard. So what groups have been oppressed? What groups have been silenced? What groups have been not recognized or not heard? And I was just talking to someone the other day where movie production companies, you have this primarily heterosexual management, and then you have people who are living alternatively, so they're not of the heterosexual culture, and at the same time they're not recognized. They probably were hushed. That we don't, because it's sinful, it's wrong, it's taboo, it's all those things that say you're not going to be recognized. At some point there was people who were, so using the word transgender, there were people who were dressing up as women, and there were some that were very popular. They actually were praised, like, go do your thing. They were artists. They sing, dance, perform. And then there was the other side where people were like, oh my gosh, they're wearing women's pantyhose, or they dress in women's clothing, and they do these different things. But as long as you don't, and as long as you don't, and as long as you keep that over there. But the last few years, if you start looking at the numbers as far as people coming out and saying that's how they identify and that's who they are internally, the numbers of speaking out about it have increased. But in general, many things have increased when it comes to speaking out due to social media. Social media has allowed a whole host of topics and ideas to be talked about, whereas before it was snail mail, and just that side of the nation didn't even know what that side of the nation was doing.
Right.
Uh, who was it? George Floyd, when he was killed in
Mhm.
Minnesota.
Yeah.
How many weeks, months? And when there's another episode where a police officer was downtown Minneapolis and someone actually deleted themselves. Right?
Oh,
Did you hear about that? But they
I
said that in
do.
downtown Minneapolis, they deleted
Mhm.
themselves, but the police
I
were on the
Yeah.
scene. The police were
Yeah.
already on the scene, and one person yelled out, "The police killed him!" And
Mhm.
boom, downtown Minneapolis was on fire.
Yeah.
Not literally, but the smashing the
Right.
windows and all that from
Right.
one person. Now, again, you take that 30 years ago, that one person could have said that, they could have screamed till they were blue in the face. It wouldn't have went anywhere. But the social
Right.
media, they tweeted it or they sent it out, and boom, it spread like wildfire. Now,
Right.
in some ways, that's been also helping and saving people. So, the police interactions, being able to videotape stuff, being able to videotape crime, even now
Right.
the doorbell cameras, those
Yeah, the ring, yeah.
yeah, the doorbell ring, and even catching
Yeah.
people stealing your packages, or
Yep.
to the more violent, ringing your doorbell asking to come in your house. Have you heard about
Mhm.
that?
Oh,
People were
yeah,
doing that.
I've seen some
Yes.
terrifying ones.
Mm. And some of the elderly people who have no idea about it, and the people are coming in and hurting them.
Mhm.
But this new doorbell service, who would have thought 30, 40 years ago of being able to monitor your driveway, your garage, or have an app where you could be all the way at work and see who's coming up to your door,
Right, yeah.
right? Yeah,
I
or
have one,
see,
I love it.
yeah, yeah.
Mm, it's
Um,
worth it, yeah.
dog daycare, and some children daycare
Yeah.
where you can watch the webcam.
Right.
I think that's awesome. In the
Mhm.
same breath, what did
Right.
that do for some people? What did that do? It's helpful to be able to see, but did that? I think with some people, if they had paranoia, if they had
Right.
worry, oh,
Right.
there are abusive things. I'm not saying there's not. There are abusive things that happen at the
Right.
daycares and all these things. But
Right.
I wonder if there are more people who are now subscribing to these things out of fear. Out of fear. I know
I'm
people
with
that won't
you.
even sign up at a certain place if they don't have the webcam service.
Right. I'm gonna try to find this. I'll let you answer. I'm gonna try to find this this it's just an interesting graph or like statistic on this topic. I'm gonna try to find it.
Hmm. While you're looking for that, I see Corey has a question about um, interracial marriages. So for me, again, I live northern U.S. and I don't have stats, but a majority of the couple, you can look out your window and see a lot of interracial dating. I have two views on it, of course. I have the one view where you stay within your culture, and part of that is if you are producing in your culture, you actually produce. If you're having children, Koreans with Koreans, Caucasians with Caucasians, you actually continue to produce your bloodline. That's one way of looking at it. That's to say, hey, now as far as living separately in segregation, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is you actually talking about marrying within your culture and producing your family, your community. So it starts with that first brick. So within your family, within your relationship, building your family and building your community. When it gets into interracial dating or interracial marriage, I think people can do that successfully. They have to understand what comes with that. I think they have to understand what comes with it. So we're talking about mixing cultures, we're talking about mixing practices, beliefs, traditions. Now, if you're matching marriages, or excuse me, marriage practices or religion, equally yoked. A Christian is a Christian, a Muslim is a Muslim, and so on and so on. So we can say we're not really mixing those type of things, but the cultural practices, what society says is right, not right, da 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 da. Do we have to listen to those people? No, but again, I think you have to know what comes within those setups. So more power to people who do it, but again, remember when it comes to resources or building your family or building your community, when you mix like that, then what community or what culture are you actually building? Should we all be one mixed and blended community and culture? We can be. Uh, there's argument that we actually started that way, right? But the sons one person went this side of town and was in more light, the other one stayed in the dark or whatever. So there's talk that we started as one and now trying to get back to just one. There's talk of we should always be separate and individualized, and then there's talk of merging. So as far as I'm concerned, those who do it, more power to them. For men, I always remind black men that in those relationships that you feel so supported in, if you're not staying awoke or aware to how you are settling, becoming more lazy, allowing this stereotype or this belief that my white woman is going to take care of me. And in that case, are you actually crippling yourself? Because there's a difference between partnering and helping to take care of each other and partnering with the idea that I'm going to do everything for you. You become lazy, sit down, and not going to do anything, or vice versa. There's now, when we talk about this woke culture, where you have these powerful black men, but they're not supposed to have this significant level of power. Says who? I don't know, but it's taboo almost if you have this significant power, get into the interracial dating, and then guess what? Or marriages, and guess what? You now position yourself for not knowing what comes with it, and for these communities to then strip you of that power or catch you slipping or catch you being doing whatever. and have an opportunity to reduce your significance. That's my 2 cents. Coach K, what are you thinking about it?
Honestly, and it one could argue, see, I always like explain way too much, but it's because I understand it from so many different perspectives. But if I had to give my own perspective, I honestly don't care. Like, I think the biggest thing, because America is already so blended anyway, like now maybe a country in Africa, I could see why like that would not be
Hmm.
okay.
Hmm.
But I understand the different cultures and the history, but I some but as a coach, it's like your skin color is something you cannot change. And neither can
Hmm.
that person across the street or that person. And it's like I like to focus on things that I can control
Hmm.
because then I can do something about it. But if I can't, it just seems like wasted energy. That's just me though. I understand the cultural stuff too, but I would rather um have, be with someone, well, I'm already married, but hypothetically, I
Hmm.
care about, their values and things like that than the color. That's
Right.
just me though.
So within your marriage, and not getting into your personal information, but
Mhm.
have you ever considered the history of your husband? Like if he came from a criminal background, if he came from a bad family, do you take any his medical stuff? Do you take any of that into consideration while you were considering marriage?
Yeah, a little bit
Hmm. And then
depending
your
on go
family,
ahead. Go ahead.
did your family approve of your husband, of your choice?
Honestly, yeah, I mean, I wish my especially the my past relationships, I wish my dad there were some that he did not approve of, but I wish he
Okay.
was more stern about it. But yeah,
Yeah.
he
Okay.
does. He does approve. Mhm.
So that mattered to you, I'm assuming. The what your parents, how they
Yeah, yeah, because
your
he was
happiness
right.
stuff. Okay.
Yeah.
And vice versa. Did you know about your husband's history? I mean, his family. Did they
What they
approve
thought
of
about
you
me?
or have conversations about you?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. The reason I ask is because
Mhm.
no matter how much we've gotten along, no matter how far we've come along to get along, there's a strong historical component to it. And even though
Mhm.
your parents before you and the parents before them and the parents before them didn't do anything to me directly, like your great didn't do anything to me physically today. However, if you've ever said, "Oh, you had that bad customer service at that store, I'm never going there again." Have you ever? I'm not going there. Have you ever heard anyone say that just because of someone else's experience?
Oh, yeah, I when I
Okay,
was in the restaurant business, I heard people say that all the time, but then
all
we'd
the time,
see
right?
him, like,
I'm
we'd see him next week, but yeah, I know what you mean.
You're right, right, right. I'm never coming here again. And then they go to
Mhm.
who they think is the competitor, but that store is owned by
Yeah,
the same. Yeah.
but they
Um,
use it against that restaurant or that place because of someone else's
right,
situation, yeah.
right. So there's history between the races that cannot be ignored. Now,
Mhm.
again, and no one has to agree with this, but my point is when I say you have to know what comes with those marriages, you have to
Mhm.
understand how you culturally connect, how you
Mhm.
psychologically connect. Yet, there's certain conversations that hit different for us. If I get pulled over by the police, having that
Mhm.
conversation with you as my wife, hypothetically, if you were my wife, and I'm going to talk to you about that, but you look like the individual who I got
Mhm.
harassed by. Now your
Right.
looks, well, I'm not that person. And you're gonna see
Mhm.
other white people. Are you mad at all of us? How do I
Right.
convey that conversation? Vice versa. You had some
Right.
conflict where maybe you were being nice and you said the wrong thing at work and people snapped on you and whatever, and you go to talk to me, even though as your husband, I'm safe, I'm understanding, I'm empathic and I will listen to you. But at some point, you have to wonder, like, does he trust me? Can I trust him? Can I do this? Can I
Mhm.
do that? When it comes to our grandparents and great grandparents, if they're involved, understanding their feelings involved. I'm not
Right.
married for my great grandparents and grandparents, but understanding
Mhm.
how those shifts and those changes impact the family, impact the long-term relationship, and then impact not just the current generation, but 2 generations forward. 2 generations forward. So even though people can get along, no matter what the skin color is, I say you have to consider all the components, kind of a global view of it, to
Mhm.
consider what goes with it. Considering there are certain places as a couple we probably couldn't go and have an actually authentic good time. There's certain
Mhm.
job functions that we probably wouldn't have the same good time if we were boom. There's certain places, different things that we have to take on. Now, part of marriage is we actually have each other to support each other. But what can you really do if I'm your man, your protector, your guide, your lead, and we
Mhm.
roll into somewhere in Wisconsin, whatever, some hick town in Wisconsin, and I'm thinking, whoa, and I'm worried about protecting you, but also protecting my own self, and then take on the fact
Right.
that you're a woman, so you have another whole set of where historically white men not even caring about white women. So it's not even like you automatically get a pass. So we're both in danger, but those
Right.
type of dangers probably wouldn't come into play if we weren't in that situation. Now, a full black couple being in that same hick town, yeah, they will have the same struggles, but the
Mhm.
understanding is different.
Mhm.
Same with that. Those are what I mean by the additional complexities that come with it that you have to understand
Mhm.
and be ready to deal with.
Yeah, and that kind of reminds me just from like the conversations we've had the past couple weeks, well, really just this whole time we've been having our show, is the depth of the experiences from, how we were raised and what we saw and things like that. It does play a significant role in the person you're looking at from that's across from you.
Mhm,
So
mhm,
I would say like that this is the same thing, like as far as it needs to be considered and taken seriously, you
mhm.
know?
So even within marriage, even our vows, um, even our understanding of each other, how we're going to serve God, how we're going to serve our higher power, how we're going to take care of each other. Again, race and culture practices,
Mhm.
ethnic practices, those come into play. In
Mhm.
general,
Mhm.
fine, they're the same, everything's the same, but there are significant differences in it. Also, understand my family, like not just the parents, but my siblings, how do they connect?
Mm.
And even if you say, listen, who I'm with is my business. It's my happiness. No one is taking care of my wife for me. No one is sleeping at night and with my wife. That's my
Right.
home, my family. I get to choose how
Right.
I want. That
Right.
is true. I 1 billion% agree. And for me, those who know me, they know that's what I say too. Like, this is my relationship,
Yeah.
what I do, and I don't care what others say. Understand the quality of the life, though. Quality of the life.
Yeah.
Um, and if you're down for it and you don't mind defending and protecting or
Right.
isolating, like getting away from those people, if you don't
Yeah.
accept mine, then you don't accept me. So that all
Right.
goes with the territory too.
Yeah.
Think about complexities of today's culture. And when we talk about the awoke culture, also understand the techniques to divide the couple are enhanced and even more wicked these days, even more wicked. And so when we talk about a strong family component, no matter what culture it is, or no matter what race it is, when we talk about a strong
Mhm.
family culture, when you shift like that, what does that mean? And what are people doing nowadays to address that? Whereas before, you might have got ignored, or we wouldn't let you live in this community, or there was some type of something done that was considered racist. Now it's way more bold, it's way more hurtful, it's way more intentional. And so it not only impacts the immediate couple, but it impacts the children. If they have children, it impacts the children, it impacts the family and that community. So again, I think there's way more than meets the eye. Not where you find love and not who you find love with, but understanding what all comes with that relationship, being ready to have those conversations.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you think, well, I mean, I think this is interesting, and everyone is so different, and um it's interesting, and some people are hostile with it. I would say it doesn't matter what their view is, what race they are, whatever it is, whatever stance they have, they can be, and I think a lot of it has to do, this is a complex, it is very complex, with
Mhm.
just the breakdown of, I would say, just society, and the unity, if you will, or whatever. um do you see it changing or improving or only getting worse, or what do you
I think
think?
for a while still getting worse because at the root of it, see,
Mm.
the root part of it is ignored. Let me give you an example. Jonathan, I won't say Jonathan Winters, that's the comedian. Jonathan,
Mm.
who's the actor, Ant-Man actor?
See, you're asking the wrong person. I am crap
Anybody
with
here?
movies.
Let's see. Anybody here know the John?
Here,
What's
I'll
it?
look it up. Wait, I think.
Weathers, Jonathan Weathers.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, so he's been acting for Majors.
Majors.
I
Okay. Yeah, he's been in
think you
the
should
news, right?
have Jonathan
I
Majors.
I haven't seen anything, I
All right. So he's in
swear.
the movie Creed 3, Ant-Man,
Yeah, yeah.
right? So let's use him as an example.
Mhm.
So when we talk about will it get better? Well, we're in 2023, and here it
Mhm.
is, this Hollywood actor, raising in fame. Now, he was accused maybe of 2 or 3 weeks ago of domestic abuse.
Mm.
Right now,
Mhm.
that's what's out, like the information that's out. He called the police for help for the person he was with. It wasn't even my significant other, blah, 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 blah. I need help with this woman.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Police get there in New York, and according to law or policy,
Mm.
on a domestic call, someone has to go to jail.
Yeah, I've heard Angry Man talk
Okay?
about this
Yeah.
before.
In most cases, it's the men. In most
Mhm.
cases, it's the men. In fact, some comedians, I forget who exactly, but they were like, so as the law is adjusting, meaning
Mhm.
whoever says who hit first, right? Or she
Mhm.
hit me, she goes, he hit me. It used to be the men go.
Right.
Because if I left as an officer and had to go to another call, OJ Simpson, those officers who had been on domestic calls before left. Later, she's boom. So then what do they say? They say, oh, we can't leave hostile situations like that. Even though you're calm when we get there, someone
Because
has
something
to
could
go.
happen.
Yep. The man is usually the aggressor, usually, so he has to go. So either
Mhm.
law or policy. So they claim that they followed that policy. There's a huge difference, though, sometimes when they go on the calls, and it doesn't matter what the race is when they go, someone has to go. But
Mhm.
immediately, the social media jumped all over this. And within a day or two, and I don't have the exact stats, so I'm not quoting, but within a short amount of time, he had already lost one of his endorsements. So he has a commercial with the Army, and within a few days, boom, that endorsement was gone. So you
It rem
take,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead. It reminds you of what?
I've only heard bits and pieces of people talk about it, so I
Mhm.
have not looked into it myself, but it did remind me a little bit of Johnny Depp, and I don't know what exactly
Oh,
happened,
right,
but I know people dropped him, like, but go
right.
on. Go on.
They dropped him. And at the rate, though, I don't know the rate of how fast they dropped him because you
Oh,
have
I don't think it was this, no.
Caucasian men in Hollywood who have had
Mhm.
issues. They're not dropped at the same rate. Now, again, without having
Mhm.
all the details, the
Right.
Army might know something that I don't. Flash, the actor, and I can't think of his name, the movie Flash, the most current Marvel comic, DC guy, as with
Oh.
somebody,
Oh,
he's
I
had some,
heard
yeah, mental health breakdowns.
in some
And
really sketchy stuff. Yes,
yeah,
I
yes,
have heard of that.
yes.
Yeah.
And he
People were
wasn't
pissed
dropped
about that.
as fast,
Yeah.
as quickly as other
Yeah.
people. Okay.
Right.
So the the rate, the differences, the behavior, but the
Mhm.
focus has been now they find out this woman is Caucasian and he should have never been with
Oh.
her. He should have never been with her. He
Mhm.
should have never been with her. So when we talk about getting better, but there's already the first thing is he shouldn't have been with her. If we're getting better, then the conversation is, oh, that's unfortunate. Maybe it was that one. So already we're still stuck. We're still talking the same language. He should have never been with her. That's not a get. That's not a get better situation. That's not a get
Mm-mm.
better statement. Add on top of that,
Mhm.
um, you have people who are going to automatically protect him and say, wait till the facts come out. And then you have
Mhm.
people who have already said, boom. And in fact, as far as I know today, he's already lost 2 or 3 endorsements. So 2 movie potential things that were dropped, and then his commercial. Marvel's still holding on to him to say, they're still waiting for the facts to come out. Now, how that relates to the question about the future, here's what's
Mhm.
missing in most of these cases.
Mhm.
I'm not saying he's guilty.
Right.
At the same time, as a person who studies human behavior
Right.
at Lyrian theory,
Right. Right.
okay, forensics, if you
Yeah.
know his childhood,
Oh, yeah. I don't know. I don't know his childhood. Tell it. Spill. This. I mean,
if you
what?
know his childhood story,
Yeah.
he would fit the bill. He would fit the accusation. Now,
Why?
people change. People, not everyone who's this and that, not everyone,
Right.
not everyone, not everyone, not everyone. If if he's on my caseload, I again, childhood adverse experiences,
Oh,
history of
yeah.
history of trauma, history of neglect,
Mm. Mhm.
history of abandonment. Would it make
Yeah.
sense for him not to be with a strong black woman? If you look up, study his childhood, study his childhood. The
Mhm.
likelihood of him being with a strong black woman,
Mm-mm.
power wise, and not
Mhm.
just energy, power, psychological power,
Mhm.
that's been reduced in his childhood. Could he be with the black woman? Yes. Are there
Mm.
strong white women? Absolutely. Absolutely. But for the type of person he prefers,
Mm.
9 out of 10 times is going to be with a Caucasian woman, not with a black woman, especially one with status of his, a lawyer, doctor, high level actress. It won't happen. But again, don't take my word for it. Do the
Mhm.
research and do domestic abuse research, do
Yeah.
childhood research. You have to put it all together. I'm more than willing to debate with someone if you want to come with clinical and or
Right. Right.
research data. I'll be more than willing to spar with you. But without that, I'll just say you're right. Again, I'm not accusing him. I'm not
Right.
accusing him. But when I sit on panels and when I testify in courts as a forensic
And
expert,
you
yeah,
have? Oh my gosh.
oh yeah, when I'm
Oh,
in
he
the courtroom,
is a big deal, man. Because I
no,
know you
no,
have
oh
to.
no,
No, but listening to different
huh?
trials and stuff, and they have like no, that is commendable though.
When I'm
I have
sitting
to
in as an
say, I have to
expert witness
say.
on the SCX offenders or crime or
Mm.
high level
Mhm.
crimes, and every single one of them, I have to do my research about what
Right.
was the person's history.
Right.
How do they connect to that behavior? Not just the
Mhm.
crime. How do they connect to that behavior? So according to the reports, she was going ballistic, having like a meltdown. He called the police. And then as if you read the latest news, it was about him cheating. So she's going ballistic. He's trying to
Mm.
calm her down. He calls the police, but he has to go to jail. So again, I'm not pointing fingers about who did what. All I'm saying is he has to understand what comes with his ethnicity, what comes with his status, what comes with him being considered a growing black man in the industry, and today's culture. He is a threat. He was a threat 10 years ago. He was a threat 20 years. A person in that position was a threat 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. Add today the
Mhm.
ability to strike and reduce someone much faster and with less effort. He has to understand what comes with that. Doesn't mean he can't
Mhm.
date. It doesn't mean he can't date out of his race. It doesn't mean any of those things. What I'm
Right.
saying is you have to add that into your understanding of what comes with that relationship.
Right.
It's the same as dating an alcoholic. I have to know what comes with an alcoholic. There's potential for us to leave a restaurant and for them to squat and piss right there in the street. I have to
Mhm.
know what comes with a partner. Would have to know if your mental health. You have to know those other details that come with mixing the races, the cultures, the practices, the value system, the beliefs, the traditions, the fears.
Mhm.
You have to understand what comes with that.
And how would you explain or suggest for those listening, and out of my own
Mhm,
curiosity, the line between bordering the paranoia we were talking about a little bit earlier and having that understanding what is going to come with it?
mhm. So
Could
there's
you
paranoia, but again, I said on someone else's show, the conversation was about a woman a wife who was in a car accident. She was T-boned, and now she's in the wheelchair for life. The husband is taking care of her, and the husband went through her phone only to find out that she was cheating. In fact, the time of the car accident, she was actually going
Yeah.
to see the person she was cheating with.
Right, I remember
And
that.
within all the debate, I said, oh, because the question was, can you imagine? Would you still take care of her? You read this text, hey, boo, I'm on the way. I'll see you in 20 minutes. Don't worry, my guy doesn't know.
Right.
And then you see pictures of your wife.
Right.
Could you,
Right.
could you still take care of her? There were a few husbands who said, absolutely, I can still take care of my wife because that is my duty. And then some who were married said, yeah, but you can actually break that agreement, marriage,
Right.
because of the person cheating.
Right,
Anyway, what
the
I
I know
said
the
is,
Bible
mhm,
has an exception
if
for
you
it.
know your partner well enough,
Mhm.
the only part of that story that would have been a surprise would have been the car accident. If you know your partner, your wife or your husband well enough,
Mhm. Mhm.
the only part of that story that would have been a surprise is the car accident. Now, here's what I mean by that. Coach K again, role playing. If you were my wife,
Mhm.
if you don't, and you can make something up, so we don't have to tell me your personal stuff. Make something up. Maybe you know of a couple. Tell me what type of mental health or chaos or something that's not well in your life or this made up woman's life. Tell me something that you bring to
Um,
the relationship.
let's say parents were separated and
Okay.
dad wasn't really around. He was there, but he wasn't really around, and me and my siblings kinda, I don't know, we fought and mom was kind of mom was a
Okay.
bitch. How we'll just
Okay.
say that.
Okay. So in this made up scenario,
Mhm.
if once I get to know you, and I don't have to be a psychologist, but let's do the work together. So you don't have to be a psychologist, but let's do the work together. What
Mhm.
comes with your father not being around is abandonment. What comes with your
Mhm.
father not always being around is a sense of neglect. And then we're going to take the fact that he was a significant man in your life, and we're going to take the fact that I'm a significant man in your life. The coding, when I call coding, meaning what's the difference between your father and me as your husband, other than romance? Other than romance, hopefully you were able to talk to your dad about anything, and hopefully
Mhm.
you should be able to talk to me about anything. Hopefully you should be able to trust and depend on your dad. Hopefully you should be able to trust and depend on me. So far, we're the same. So that coding about trust, safety, protection, a leader. He was not half. He was half there. So your
Mhm.
leadership belief in his leadership, your belief in his protection, your belief in all these things, your experience with this, your experience with that, the coding that comes with this transfers to me as the significant man in your life, and then
Mhm.
what we add romance. So I already
Right.
have half the battle you already have projected onto me, not
Mhm.
knowing, meaning the significant other you're looking for. If you are looking for a man who's going to provide you even some of the things your dad did not,
Mhm.
however, we share in that coding. So it's not so so already it's half the battle, because somewhere in your mind there's a question of, when am I going to neglect you? When am I going to abandon you? When am I going to fail you? So that question is already there.
Mhm.
Once I learned that about you, and it doesn't mean the first date hey, if you're gonna be my husband, you have to be there. Oh, my father wasn't, I'm not talking
Yeah,
about that.
and
That's
I
not.
encourage people not to do that.
Yes, yes, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about
Yeah.
developing a foundation in the relationship. Now, some people can do that and some people can't. They want to develop the bedroom, but some people who can develop the relationship, me, and I'll tell you, for me personally, I have to always be aware of my hunger for power, control, and safety. I always have to be aware of my power, control, and safety. I come
Mhm.
from a background of mama busting my head, my mama trying to kill my sisters, and my mama using drugs and engaging in all kind of things, and all I could do was be a spectator. Now, this is from my mom, who's my nurturer. My father is
Right.
also my grandfather, step grandfather. So the coding in me is to be what? Whoever, what woman I'm with, I want to do the opposite of what my dad did. I actually want to be there for my significant other. Actually want to make sure my kids, if never to abuse them, right? Good luck with that. These promises
Mhm.
that you make when I'm never going to, and I'm never going to. Some can do it, some can stick to their promises. But you know what I often hear? People saying, "Damn, I'm just like the person I said I didn't want to be like." I'm saying the same
Oh.
stuff my parents were saying, but they made all these childhood promises.
Right.
So my my thing of, I was told I'm a piece of shit, and I believed it forever. And then
Right.
when my mom said, "What happens at home stays at home," and I was pretty good going to school, busted up, never telling. But when I caught my mom
Mhm.
drowning my sisters, and I went in to
Right.
bust that up, and then I went and got help, and I took that ass whooping like a champ. When I broke that up and my mom came and beat me, it was the best. And I don't mean it in a bragging way, but Coach K, I promise you, it was the ass whooping of my life, because there was one spot that she didn't hit me. Can you guess? Nothing freaky. Can you guess?
um, I'm thinking in Oregon.
Yep. Well, think about, why would I be happy smiling while I'm getting my ass handed to me after busting up my mom from drowning my sisters?
I feel like that I don't wanna say the wrong thing.
There's always a chance of saying the wrong thing. Take a risk.
I
But
know, but
it's
I
nothing
usually am
sexual,
good on
so
it.
yep. A lot of people
I
say
know I'm
she'd have kicked you
usually good
in
with
the ball.
answering
Yeah,
your questions.
yeah.
Um,
She didn't hit me in
your
my
so
ears. I mean, my hands were blocking
your
whatever, and I
eyes,
was taking the lumps and bumps. She didn't hit me in my ears. Now, why is that significant? Because as long
right,
as I could hear my sisters cry, I knew they weren't drowning.
right.
And I invited that ass whooping. I knew nothing about George Foreman and Muhammad Ali, the rope a dope. I kept them going. I didn't know about that. I was a kid, but I didn't know about that style. But as long as I could hear my sisters crying, and I know my mom's routine when she's high to beat me until she passes out, I was inviting that ass whooping. It was about 2 hours long,
Mhm.
but every time she hit me, boom, and I can hear. "Ah, ah." I knew as long as they were crying, they weren't drowning. And
Yeah.
the second after she passed out, I went and got my sisters, took them to the neighbors, went and got help. How all that is related, I broke the rule. What happens at home stays at home. I broke the rule. And when I got help, that led to 7 different foster homes in New York. It led to being adopted.
Mhm.
It led to me not seeing my sisters in 42 years.
Right.
So guess what I lived on? Fuck. My mom was right. You don't tell white
Right.
people, you don't tell what's going on out of the home. Wait, you saved your sisters. Which
But
cost
yeah.
me more?
But did
Which
I? Right.
cost, which cost was more significant to me? Breaking the rule and losing my family, saving my sisters. And people were like, duh.
Mhm.
Mm, mm.
Doesn't
Until
feel
I
like
was willing to
that,
get
I'm
the help,
guessing.
Coach K, until I was willing to get the help, I blamed myself for everything. And then the big D word came out, disappointed. I promised my sisters I would get help. I ran away to my best friend's house. I was busted up, bloody. They were like, oh, what's going on? We're calling the police. I'm like, ran from there. Stayed homeless in the Bronx, New York for about 2 weeks before someone found me and took me to the hospital. This is previous to Amber Alert. Make this long story short, I never got back to my sisters. That disappointment was etched in the back of my brain lifetime. I got
Right.
adopted. I wear these 2 bands. When I got adopted, I put 1 band on one sister and one on another. And I said, I promise when we reunite, we'll cut these off. I was 13 then. I'm 50 now, and they're still on. This is actually the second set. The original set broke. But this is the second set. I don't take them off for a girlfriend. I don't take them off to nothing. Go to jail or to the hospital. It's the only reason I need to take these off. All right. So that being said, what do you think I bring into a relationship? I bring a sense of secrecy. Like, man, I remember what my mom said. And so if you are my wife saying, you don't talk to me, you don't share your feelings with me, you don't, woo. Okay. So how that relates to the cheating story and Jonathan, when we
Yeah.
develop this understanding about each other, you
Mhm.
understand my insecurities. You also
Right.
understand my inadequacies.
Right.
I understand your insecurities and inadequacies at a deeper level to the point where I know men attention feels good to you. I didn't
Right.
say sex. I said
Right.
attention from a man because you were neglected and it didn't get your cup filled, so to speak, from your father.
Right.
That
Yeah.
childhood experience doesn't just magically go away. There's always the crowd out there that says, grow up, just be a woman, just be a man, just get it
Right.
together. It doesn't work that way. They can't even stop smoking cigarettes, let alone
Like, what
just
does
be
that
a,
even
just get on your feet. Just I'm sounding like
Right.
Buster,
Like
but just
Oh,
but
man.
it doesn't work like that. Right? It's bullshit. It is
Right.
bullshit. No one just snaps and stops everything. The people saying that shit can't even stop masturbating. So stop all that about
Right, right.
just get on your
The
feet
br
and
the
and
brain
and
doesn't
and
work
be a
like that
man.
either.
Bullshit. It doesn't work that way. Now they can
No.
argue all they want, but until you can challenge me with some clinical data. So
Right. He's not messing, guys. He's not messing around.
so so I know in this relationship, it doesn't mean I need to give you extra attention. What I'm saying is I'm aware that male attention, I'm aware that you possibly have a work husband. Not that you wanted him to be that, but you have that guy who's like that father figure to you. You have that
Mhm.
guy who's like a big brother to you. You have that guy who claims to be your friend. Now, part of that awareness is me watching their moves also.
Right.
You know,
Right.
he's a
Because even
friend.
if it's innocent with her from her perspective, you're still
I'm
looking
aware
at
of her vulnerabilities and people who are
Yeah,
trying to take
right.
advantage of you.
Right.
Yeah, he's a friend. How come he always wear them damn gray sweatshorts and shit when he's around? But you
Right,
know,
right.
but so I'm aware on one
Exactly.
side as a protection. I'm also aware on the other side for allowance.
Mm.
And the day you get not you knock on wood, whatever in that story, that wife who gets in the car accident, I scroll through her phone. Damn,
Mhm.
she did have another. Yeah, I'm disappointed because why didn't we talk about it? Why didn't? But because I understand the deeper part of you, this would make sense to me. It's very unfortunate. I don't like
Yeah.
it. I didn't want that.
Like it got out of control maybe?
It
Would
got
you
out of
consider?
control.
Yeah,
You now
it makes
trust.
sense.
Uh, you're a whore. Blah, blah. Wait a second. No one's going to agree with me. We are all whores in some form of fashion. The
Like
money. Some people will work their 3 or 4 jobs for that money. They're a whore for the money. Purses,
food.
shoes, cars, food.
We're all
There's a
whores. That's
whore
a
in all
fact.
of us. Yeah, people will
That's
run
a
their mouths.
fact.
Yeah, oh, yeah, she's a whore. She's a whore. And what do? Video games. I'm a video game whore. There's a whore in all of us. But again, that's a different story. I
Right.
just all these naysayers who people are always talking shit who really don't really know themselves. So
Yep. You're already
I,
sick of this space. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. But it's a
so
fact though, especially knowing what you know.
right. Now I'm also cursed. I'm not perfect. I'm a whore too. So just but um so
Right.
so anyway, let's kind of let me bring all this together.
Yeah, yeah.
The car accident, understanding, not accepting, not tolerating, only understanding why she got this dude must have really been, or in that case, the guy must have really been whatever for his wife. And that's
Mhm.
hurtful, it's wrong. All that stuff is real. All I'm saying is one layer below that. That's all I'm saying. All that stuff above is legit. Do you want to take care of her? Do you not take care of her? Are you mad at her? Do you want to go kill the guy? I don't want to kill the guy because I have to understand that 2 people play a role. In fact, I have to understand 3 people possibly play a role because I'm her guy too. I'm not responsible for what she did. I'm not responsible for what she did. I'm not responsible for what she did. And I'm not responsible for
Right.
that manipulator and that take advantage of person. I'm not responsible for that. And he violated my marriage and he knew about it. So he has some responsibility in it too. The only point is my understanding. Go to Jonathan Majors. He's a
Right.
star, and if you learn his history, his girlfriend, the last part of that story, the least part of that story should have been her surprise that he cheated. If you know
Mhm.
his, now again, he probably didn't share, and I'm not saying it's okay. Just because you had a rough childhood does not guarantee that I'm going to be okay
Right.
with you cheating. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is he
Yeah.
has to understand he's a whore in some form of fashion for attention, for love, to not be abandoned, to not be neglected, and he can only handle a certain type of woman. Please understand, he lived on a military base. This is not bashing military. What I'm saying is he lived with a military family that moved around. Every single one of
Mhm.
those moves come with another form of betrayal. I just started to develop this friendship. I just developed this over here. Not saying my parents
Mhm.
betrayed me. What I'm saying is a disconnect. And there's no grieving. And he's a middle child. Oh my gosh, he's a middle child. So he has middle child syndrome. I call it the
Yeah.
squeeze play. The first kid gets all the attention and all the responsibility. The second kid is the baby. But this baby has, in a traditional family, mama, papa, first kid, all telling this kid what to do. Mama,
Mhm.
papa, first kid, all telling this kid what to do. That's not that good oochie coochie coo baby loving. That's stress. And then now there's a new baby, and this is the baby, and this one still gets to like hang out and do whatever he wants to do. Still the first person, the eldest, and da da da. And so this middle person starts to get what's called a squeeze play. They start to get what's called a
Right.
squeeze play, and they develop what's called middle child syndrome, meaning they feel forgotten about. They're not as significant as
Right.
the baby, and they're
Right. He
not
gets to do
as
whatever.
important as the yeah. So they get the squeeze play. They're still in the family, but those are the ones that move far away. Those are the. If I had a sports team, I would hire a coach that's a middle child because they go out of their
Oh.
way to win. They go out of their way to make sure that they're significant. They go out of their way to show you and prove to you, I matter also.
Right. Right.
So again, I'm
So
not psychoanalyzing them. I'm only saying you take that relationship, any relationship he goes into, if he does the work, any relationship
mhm.
he goes into, he's being transparent. He's being honest about his vulnerabilities. He's talking about his weaknesses. He's talking about his needs and desires.
Mhm.
I'm warning my wife. I'm going into that marriage saying, The last part of the conversation we had to have is about me cheating. But again, that's a totally different level about communication, blah, 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 blah. Let's get back to the complexities of a troubled relationship.
Mhm.
So that now issue is up. She's having a meltdown. He calls the police. Boom. By law or policy, they take him. Our woke culture was so quick to jump on it to say, protect her, taking in old philosophy, black
Mhm.
man, white woman, add
Mhm.
in a powerful black man on the rise in the industry, Hollywood industry. Then not too long ago, there was conversation about him being feminine, too feminine, him touching. So the Michael, can't think of his name, the Creed actor,
Jordan B. Jordan.
Jordan. Thank you. Jordan who?
Michael B.
Michael
Jordan.
Michael B. Jordan. Thank you.
Mhm.
There's a scene where I think they're touching hands. They hugged each other. I think they were on a talk show, and one of them touched his knee. So there was talk
Mm.
about him being feminine.
Yeah.
So if you have a current group of people
Right.
who are saying we are finally heard, and they've been considered an outcast, a feminine group. If you take this group and they say, "Oh, you're one of us," and you denounce it, so you take this current group that's in power. And when you feel proud to be like, this powerful so and so is with us, and that person denounces, well, I'm not saying that they're going to retaliate. What I'm saying is, oh, remember, you're not one of us. Good luck.
Right.
The current practice of um, a black woman seeing that couple and then saying, that's what he gets.
Right.
That's not new. That's always been a see.
Yeah.
But the current day, what we call the modern woman has grown to that point where she no longer is willing to accept and tolerate. No longer willing to accept and tolerate. So women in general, if you talk about a wife that's been cooking, cleaning, having her body available to you, uh, offering the nurturing, enduring the emotional, taking care of the children, taking care of the house, taking care of her husband, and maybe she'll
Mhm.
get in some time to take care of herself. She
Right.
is saying, I am tired. I am tired. Now, not just my husband, but the society is saying, I don't matter. And this is bullshit. Then you bring in the
Mhm.
feminine movement to say, yeah, you have a voice. Misogyny has to stop.
Yeah.
The man being in
Patriarchy. Yeah.
control has to have a stop. This hierarchy
Right.
system has to be crumbled and broken. Now, it's
Right.
about equality and it's about having a voice. But if you think about that, I would argue, and again, I'm not here to argue any particular movement, but if you think
Mhm.
about that, regardless if you like it, women
Mhm.
have always had a voice. I say this to my the clients I work with who are sex offenders. They don't have to come to my treatment. They don't have to come and get work. They might not like the consequences.
Right. Like taxes.
Yes, you
Don't
don't
have to
have
pay
to pay your
taxes.
taxes. Good luck with that. And I'm not saying women had just yeehaw, just whatever they want to do. But there are women who broke away and said, I will deal with the consequences. There are
Right.
women who stepped out of their marriage and said, enough is enough. And if I don't
Yeah.
have the money, if I don't have this, I will be fine. There are
Yeah.
women to have done that. And I know
Well,
society shuns and stops and all that, but sorry, what were you gonna
right. Oh, sorry, real quick, just the some women in Iran, who
say?
decided I'm gonna take off, the hijab or whatever, and they're like, I'm gonna do it, and there's grave
Yes.
consequences. But
In fact, that
continue.
person didn't they didn't that person well, there was one person who's really vocal about it. Didn't she get killed? Do you know
Is
what I'm talking about? There was
I
one lady who was very vocal.
I think so.
Yeah,
I'm gonna look it
out
up.
east, very vocal about the rights and stuff. And coincidentally,
I would believe it. Yeah.
yeah. In India, I had a couple of India clients coaching them on Skype back in the day. And then one of my clients, she married outside of let me get this right. She married outside what her parents wanted her to do. So she was talking to me, but even those conversations as and trying to coach her and stuff was very hush hush. Like you can't, like it was very, you had to be very careful because getting support for something like that is, and that was, oh, I can't think how many years, maybe 3, 4, 5 years ago that was. I had another younger one who wanted some support and some help because trying to deal with her family's traditions and society and media, and that's when Facebook, like she needed wanted the likes and the likes and the likes, she wasn't getting them. So her value system. So my point is,
Oh
there are
yeah.
certain places in the world, and then you take America, the USA, and maybe Canada. You take those two together, but we're saying we're so different and better than the rest of the world. So you take all these continents and these countries that have these practices, and we're saying we know better than any of all these countries and practices. And our current
Mhm.
president and the vice president went over to Africa, I think within a month or so, within the last few weeks, went over
Mm.
to them to bargain with them. This is how bargaining sounds. If you don't do this anymore, if you don't do this, we're going to reduce aid. We're going to reduce aid if you don't allow for LGBTQ policies and acceptance. So the
Was
way we're
this
going to support you is to reduce aid to on a continent that hasn't supported that idea, that lifestyle, or that person who's felt that this is how they've always been. They haven't accepted that forever,
right?
and now you're going to withhold aid. So where is all of this energy coming from? That the president of, you know how many problems we have over here. You know how many problems we have over here that you go to another continent to tell them what to do
Hmm.
about LGBTQ. Now, again, that movement, that group, the group of people who identify now have a voice. The women now have a voice. But it's almost like I told a client the other day.
Hmm.
You have to be careful because you have a voice and I'm giving you some honey and you just went max out. You just went boom. What was the rollout? Was there an actual rollout? Was there an actual increase in the power? Was there an actual increase in the way I'm being heard? If you take a caged animal and you've been feeding them a little bit, but you finally let them out the cage and you
Right.
practice with them a few times to see if they go far. But they nibble a little bit and go back into the cage, nibble a little bit and go back into the cage. But
Right.
when they see an opportunity to get away, and they take off, boom. And when they take off, they never know when they're going back to that cage. So they wreak havoc. And I'm not calling anyone animals. I'm not calling any group an animal. I'm just giving you an example. If
But
you
it's like
if
nature, right?
yes. So the havoc that's being it's being wreaked is not for me, is not with the intent to hurt other people. However,
Right.
if you don't if you don't join, if you don't agree, then I have to consider you as one of the enemies because I've always had enemies. I've always considered you as one of the hostage takers. I've always considered you as one of the animal handlers. I've always
Mhm.
considered that's all I've ever dealt with. So if you don't
Mhm.
join, then I have to consider you're one of those handlers. And I'm more at risk with you than I am being favored. I'm more at risk when HIV first came on the scene.
Right.
And people were like, oh, I'm afraid of the person with HIV. I'm afraid of the person with HIV. The person with HIV was actually more at risk of you having a cold than you catching what I have. You sneeze on
Oh,
me, that might be a wrap.
because the way it affects the body.
My immune system.
That's fast. It's unfortunate, but fascinating.
Yeah.
Like especially that kind of dynamic. You
Yes.
know.
Working in the jail with people with COVID the last three
Yeah.
years.
Mhm.
Everyone's worried about in the jail getting COVID. The people in jail was worried about the people coming into jail.
Right.
The employees who are out in society every day,
Right.
possibly getting COVID, and now you're going to pass that on to us. So here the staff are like, oh, the inmates might get us sick. And the inmates were like, we're more at risk. We're in the same locked up room or building. So the point is, there's a group of people who have power now. And then I'm aware of time, and I really want to get into a few of the ways that is impacting us more, even more at home. And I'll
Mm-hmm.
give a couple of shout outs here or recognize what's going on in the chat
Yeah.
here. Anything we should?
It's simmered down a little bit. It was getting a little spicy earlier. For better for worse, you can decide. Dragonfly Joe's cousin. Hey, he's one of my buddies. Corey, as usual, thanks for being here. We have CBN in the back. I saw Marcus. Thanks for being here as well. He's always stopping by to say hello. Sugar Bomb, what's up? Starting trouble. Be love. Oh, I appreciate her. Thanks for being here. And everyone else, if I missed anyone, I don't think I missed anyone, but if I do, thanks for being here also. This has been a
Yes.
great conversation. I hope you all have thought so too.
Love to all of you. Thank you, thank you, thank you for being here. Much, much appreciated. Welcome to the Black Men Unfiltered Network and our show, Breaking the Chain, really to address the mental health issues and concerns. Oh yeah, I'm fine. Please note, in addition to my clinical work, I'm also a comedian, uh, humor
Jack of all
speaker.
trades.
Yeah. But I mean, that's like I can really get into these roles and expression, and these topics are sensitive. And so please know, coming to our show is not really the same kind of entertainment that you're going to get, one of
Right.
these conversations or these panels. And our stuff is real life, real. It's real. So I understand the sensitivities, but please know, once you come over, we're going to get to some raw stuff.
You
And this,
forgot, aren't you a rapper too?
oh man, that was old school. That was old
Convenient.
school. Yeah,
Convenient.
yeah,
You forgot
old
that.
school, old school. I couldn't rap a Christmas gift nowadays. I couldn't. Yeah. And then Coach K has experience too. And please don't be fooled, because I do a lot of the talking, a lot of the kind of facilitating, but we're a team, and Coach K has her skill set. In fact, Coach K, our upcoming shows, like,
Oh,
going to be highlighting or showcasing your experiences. So just please know we are a
yeah.
team. I'm not up here
No,
thinking
but
I'm the granddaddy and all
you're a
that, and
freaking
just
expert though, man.
no, no. But we're partners.
Seriously.
We're
I'm the
partners.
apprentice. We'll say that. But I'm not clinical, so
Right.
don't confuse that. But yes.
Just two different perspectives, but same kind of industry of helping others,
Yes.
helping others. Right,
Mm-hmm.
right.
Right.
All right. So in the home, you have parents who have lost their rights, or there's been a shift in laws and policies. So parents
Mm,
can't parent the way that they used to. I know there's debate about if you knock a kid in the head, if you tell them because I told you so, if you offer
mm,
consequences, if you do, plenty of different parenting styles, the dominating, the authoritarian, the passive aggressive. I get it. Plenty of different parenting styles. What I'm referring to is the law that's changed, the policy that's changed, depending the state and district you're in,
mm-hmm,
schools where parents had way more say so in how and what their kids did within the schools. And
mm-hmm.
now the debate is, if you don't allow this and don't allow for that, that you can actually be considered at risk for your kid as far as child protection is concerned. Child
Yeah.
protection can come into your home now and take the kid out of the home because they feel like you are not attending to the kid's needs. If you are not an affirming parent, if you are not an affirming parent, then it's considered dangerous for the kid, because they may get in their head that they should deplete themselves or they should delete themselves. Let's
Mm-hmm.
let's do a reality check. In 1988, speaking of my rapping, some people weren't even born then. In
I
1988,
wasn't.
yeah, Dr. C. Ever Coop, the old guy with the big beard and put on the side of cigarettes, smoking is bad for your health. Dr. C. Ever Coop, Surgeon General of the U.S. under Ronald Reagan,
Mm. Or
came
yeah.
to Minnesota, did a documentary on me. Okay, and I'm not name dropping, but
Wait, what?
the significance. I'm only naming it not to name drop, but the significance.
Wait,
Uh, did a documentary on
he
me, played but listen,
he
listen,
did a
don't get caught up.
documentary on him.
Yeah, I was one of those teenagers with bad behaviors turned good.
So cool though.
And
Anyway, go
yeah,
on.
and I would go to schools and do presentations. And this is what got me the notoriety with the Surgeon General. Guess what the number one topic was? For I was doing what they call peer education, adolescent to adolescent. And there were 5 topics. Guess what the top 2 were? Just guess.
Like issues you said for teen or for adolescents?
Mm-hmm.
Um, drugs
Mm-hmm. Top
and
5. Mm-hmm.
okay.
So drugs is one of them. Go ahead. I said 3. How many did I name? I mean, there are 5, but I asked you to name 2, right? So you named
Yeah, the
drugs. It's
top
one.
two.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that was one of the top two.
Actually, drugs was number 3 back in
Oh,
1988.
okay, okay. Um, violence.
Mm-hmm. So number 1
Okay.
was, and I don't know if we can say it here, homo,
Oh,
someone else taking you out. And
mm,
number 2 was taking yourself out. Number 3
mm,
was drugs,
mm,
sex, unprotected sex and STDs, pregnancy.
mm.
In 1988. So using that as an excuse, and there's a whole wave of now therapists, psychologists, coaches, but really people who can sign off. So psychologists, therapists, providers that
Mhm.
feel threatened if they don't sign off saying, yes, I affirm this kid's needs because they might delete themselves. In
Yes.
2023, the concern has become so great about a kid deleting themselves when we had that as a number 2 concern in 1988. That's not a new concern about adolescence.
Well, I don't know,
That's
and
not,
we don't need to get into a big thing, but the whistleblower
mm-hmm,
from a gosh, where was she? Oh, she was in St. Louis in a clinic.
mm-hmm. Sorry,
Did
I
you
was
hear
going to
about that
comment.
at all?
Yeah, no, say it again about what?
Oh, there.
Oh yeah, I
uh,
missed it. I'm glad he. Uh, yeah, not homo as
oh,
in sexual. I didn't want to say that.
oh, I didn't even
We
think.
say I don't know all the YouTube street language, so I know we don't say self
Deleting, yeah,
delete. So
deleting someone
deleting,
else
yeah. So
or
deleting
self
someone else.
delete.
So that,
Yeah.
yeah. Sorry about that. Yeah.
No, no,
Number one threat was if you were, yeah. Oh no, that's not what it said.
yeah.
Uh,
Right. See, it's like we're trying to walk on eggshells to abide by YouTube standards, and then we
yes,
mess
yes.
up, and you
Right,
can't win
right,
here.
man. All right. So what were you asking?
But and we can always talk about this, or if you want to look into it or whatever. But there was a director or someone involved in a clinic for I think it's pediatrics for the trans, and because I'm trying to be like good, but yeah,
Hmm.
it was a trans clinic, and she was a whistleblower talking about, and I'm going to imagine things such as this, and it may not even be she was a
Correct.
whistleblower. So, but
Yep. Yep.
continue.
Hmm. So the intent was to balance things out. Like,
Right.
if you can make changes to your life, you can do this to your life. We should be able to do this. Get it? And then you have an age group that you can make any decision you want. In our land, it's 18 and above for certain behaviors, 21 and above for
Right.
other behaviors. There are homes that say
Right.
you can't even get a tattoo until you turn 18. Our legal age of consent, depending the state, but I think the lowest in the US is 16, and that's only with a 2-year gap. So you could be 16, but you can't give consent for a 25-year-old. So we have all these numbers in place. Now, it doesn't mean that a person
Right.
does not know themselves before then. It does not mean that a person doesn't know themselves before then, but you have to consider the stages in which they know this information. The changes. How
Right.
many times have you said, Coach K, "Whoo, man, me 5 years ago, oh, I won't do that again," or me 10 years ago, oh my gosh, I can't believe. So uh, I can't flush down the toilet all these years of childhood development. I can't just flush that away. It just doesn't magically delicious go away. that all these years of study of childhood development, that we no longer consider that, and that we make
Is
permanent changes. And if we don't agree with it, people have lost their careers. If you don't agree
and their
with it,
children
parents have
maybe.
lost, yes, parents have lost the rights to their children because they were not affirming. Again, if you want to affirm or not, it's one issue. Saying that you can't parent this kid in your home that's 10, 11, 13, 15, and they want to make changes and you don't allow for it, you're blocking it, is equal to what they call assault. Equal to assault and neglect if you don't allow for the changes. Those are some of the things that are making it challenging for the society, making it challenging for the home. And if you
Right.
impact the home, you impact the community. And if you impact the community, you impact the society. Do we want people helping our children out of fear? Do we want us helping our
Right.
adolescents out of feeling obligated to? 20 years ago, what was the argument? Can I put my kid out without getting in trouble? 16, you think you're growing, you're running your mouth. Is that bag gonna be big
Right.
enough to throw shit and get out? And then the law saying
Right.
you can't put him out. That was the argument 20 years ago.
Yeah,
Now I
there
have
was
a client that's
actually
yeah.
go ahead.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, I remember Aaron O, who, is a content creator. He had a topic that was saying if your 16-year-old doesn't want to go to school, can you force them to go to school? And of course, people were talking about all like just these types of things, whether it's policy, because I know there's truancy and things like that. But it's like, can you force them? What can you do if they don't go? And then the parent is held, liable. They could get,
Mm-hmm.
criminal charges of some sort, whatever. But yeah, but you
Mm-hmm.
continue.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Actually, want to give a shout out to Sir Hales in the house. Thank you for stopping by. Good to
Hey,
see you.
Sir Hale.
And Chaotic Truth. Chaotic Truth is in the house.
Hey.
And if you are still there, now would you be open to let's have this conversation, Chaotic Truth? If you are
Yeah.
you open to coming on?
Chaotic. Are you there?
If you give a
Big
how
shout out. No, go
um
ahead.
Chaotic Truth, if you want to come on, I would just put a one in the chat and we'll see if he wants to come on. He was saying he
I will see. I'll message him too.
Mhm.
On Instagram. I wanted to also give a big shout out to my twin sister
Oh,
who
who's your twin?
texted me. She hasn't made a
Oh, you're
YouTube or anything like that, but
like a real twin? Yeah, all right. I thought
yeah,
you meant
yeah,
like
I have an
one
identical
handed.
twin. Oh yeah. She was watching because I posted it to my Instagram just to share it,
Uh-huh.
and she made me all nervous. I'm like, oh gosh, but she liked what you were saying, and I've
Right.
obviously shared with her. But yeah, so shout out to you, Aaron.
Yes.
But I'm
While
gonna
we're waiting to see if
message
Chaotic is
Kale.
going to join us, and also I see CBN has someone that asked a question. When dealing with people from deep ethnic cultures with deep history, it's risky to interfere in a way, uh, it, interfere in their way of life. Question, trying to push your own view on them. So exactly, changing practices, changing traditions, changing and pushing certain beliefs, but again, you don't just change that one person, you end up changing communities, cultures, and generations. And it could be risky for the person who's being asked to do that. It's a whole set of things that come with it. I agree.
Is it
Now let me go.
successful
If KI comes
usually?
on or not, huh? Say it
I
again.
said, is it successful doing it that way?
To have people, which is what part
Like
successful?
to push a view like on someone, like to
I
interfere
think
with
it's out of
someone's way of
innocence.
life.
I mean, for some people, back to if we were married and I'm saying I don't want you doing X, Y, and Z, or you tell me I shouldn't be doing X, Y, and Z because that's old, or I shouldn't be, you know, it might be successful for us because I trust you, we trust each other, we're willing to
Mhm.
make those changes. But if it has a
Mhm.
ripple effect, if it has a ripple
Right.
effect, anything from changing. Now, what we create in our relationship is up to us, but how
Right.
does it impact the family? How does it impact generations ahead? Is what I always say we should consider. So the president
Right.
from here going over to another continent, telling them what to do, I would disagree with that when we have so many issues
Right.
over here, right? Why would you
I
change?
agree. Did
So
he go
I think that's
to U Uganda or Kenya or
he went to.
And that is why I come up because this topic, a question I asked among a lot of ethnic groups, I hear this question for more than 11 years. And when I eavesdrop on the conversation, I also found out a lot of things that took place whereby people in leadership are talking about it more and more and they feel some kind of way. I've asked that the thing that took place in Uganda is a repeat of what happened 2 terms ago when Obama made a tour to Africa. He went to Nigeria, he went to Ghana, he went to his home country, with followers from Kenya as well. And he promoted the same views. I watch the African news, I watch the African reporter, what they say about it. And I find it that they took it in a very, very negative light. Because it's almost like telling and one of the present leaders today, I think 5 to 7 leaders say the same phrase. We don't come to your country and tell you God how you supposed to live your life or how you supposed to conduct yourself. But it's kind of disrespectful when your leader comes over to our land,
Mhm.
tell us how we supposed to live, tell us how we supposed to conduct ourselves, tell us how we supposed to operate. And I don't think they really fully understand the depth. It's one thing you're talking to the leaders. You're not talking to the people who are operating a different frequency than the leader operates. And let me tell you why I say that. Before Obama came to Africa and did that campaign, living in Nigeria for 7 years, the cultural dynamic behind it, how do people live, how do people survive, how do people walk about their life, it's completely different than a life that you see in the US or in the UK if you have lived in either of these countries. Their laws or their belief system is, let's say, heavily ingrained.
Mhm.
Look at the Middle East. Nothing you do or say to these people will force them to drop their way of life that have been created over 1,000 years, that have been passed down from generation to generation to generation, and they kept it that way. So imagine someone come to your nation and tell you that this is how you're supposed to live. And we never dealt with the people. So I'm not going to share the episode I think, but to see how people conduct themselves and allow me to try to get a bigger picture, the risk behind it. You taking somebody, man, it's kind of hard to get the exact word to express without crossing the line.
Mhm.
Trying to take their cultural route that they have not only implemented, not only they perfected, it have been dig into the grain in their DNA, into their brainwave, into their mindset. Then you want to come and say, no, what? No, we're going to tell you you're wrong in doing this, but we're going to uproot you guys. This is what you should practice. Not realize it created a stigma. I don't think people understand because African people know how to hide things
Mhm.
for decades. They do. and they can smile at you, but waiting to get the right opportunity to really express how they really feel in a much more negative way.
Hmm.
If they're hard headed. But those who are open minded who rather come to you and explain to you why you should be careful and shun light people to come to our turf. Because you don't understand those who don't have an open mind. That's what I put that question there because people complain about the law in Uganda. 2 terms ago, Nigeria passed that same kind of law. They passed that same kind of law that cost them not only did Nigeria pass that law, it was about, if I'm correct, 6 to 7 other countries had similar law that's identical to that. One whereby it's illegal to practice that lifestyle. One whereby you get the death sentence if you practice that lifestyle.
Hmm.
And when I saw that, I was like, okay, how do you explain that to people over here who have no idea how these people feel or think? Now, when you mention Uganda, I've been watching their podcast based in Uganda for a good almost a month now. You have Ochidi Jackson out there. And he fully understands the on ground dynamic of how people live and think there. And he has dealt with other leaders. He had been around other African countries. He had do collaborations, but he did a part to explain certain things that people are not aware of. Right? When he mentioned about when Kamala Harris come over there and did what she did, he said it affect what said that it affecting the community right now. People are feeling somehow that it could be negative if you are a visitor from the US. Is what I'm trying to explain because when I would tell people before you travel, do your homework before you go to any other country. Understand the culture, understand the way of life, understand what you can and cannot do because psychologically speaking, if you're not aware and be open minded and be sensitive, you can do things that could affect you in the long run that can give you a negative aspect of life. And you may feel some kind of way or it may awaken some trauma that it's nothing to do with them, but it's because of your past events you may react a certain way that could ought to bring consequences.
Hmm.
When
Hmm.
O'Shea was explaining all the different businesses that he had been around as an African American, how they treat him compared to how they treat African people, he took the time out to actually study it and start to realize, okay, it's not something simple. Now, me being a guy from Nigeria, born in Canada, but living here, I have to humble myself to understand the American culture
Hmm.
understand the American Black history, understand the history of the nation, how it was built, so that I don't make dumb decisions that will affect
Hmm.
me or put me in a position whereby it seems off. So when I put that question there, I'm trying to figure out from your expertise, what do you think that people are missing or how to relate or how to interact without crossing boundaries that people don't know it could be a landmine?
Hmm.
We
I
may
think it is a boundary. Yeah, it is a boundary crossing.
we may think in the US it's not a big deal,
Right.
but you forget not everybody around the world has the same United States mindset or how they view situation or things because we don't walk in their shoe. We walk in our shoe on an everyday basis we do here. And when we leave our comfort zone to go somewhere else, we're not taking note of how would these people react to us
Hmm.
when we say such things. How would they take it? How they're going to respond? How they're going to digest it? What will be the reaction after
Hmm.
that? Are they justified for the reaction or they're not justified? If they're not justified, explain why. If they're
Hmm.
justified, what do we do behind that?
Right. Right.
I would come on to to clarify my question because
Hmm.
I'm always
Perfect.
thinking, I'm always reading and trying to figure what's going on around the world and trying to understand the pace, how people respond, how people think. I don't
Hmm.
try to be shallow minded because my relative most of my relative members are in government position in higher level in multiple around the world, and I listen to their comments without trying to eavesdrop, but trying to understand
No,
what
I
are the
appreciate it.
viewpoints.
Yes. Sure.
Yeah.
Hmm.
You're part of
Thank
the
you.
audience
Appreciate it.
too.
Yeah, yeah, appreciate it. Uh, so in general, yeah,
You appreciate your perspective.
even right here in the States, I remember going to certain towns wanting to do my workshops and presentations and talk to the urban folks and talk to the young black men. And I've been told we appreciate, but you have to slow your roll when you come into our community. There have been certain gangs that say, hey, we appreciate what you're doing, but you have to slow your roll when coming into our community, when coming into our system, our place, our home. That's right here in this on the same in the same country, same continent. Also, because I figure I'm black and they're black, and my agenda to give back, how nice. But then if I start adding conditions to it, one thing to allow me to come into your space, but if you don't allow me, or if it comes with threats or subtle threats, or I'm going to stop this or stop that, that's a totally different. I think that changes the whole thing, and it's an insult. Just like how older people are like, yeah, I'm not going to. You can't just change. You can't force me to change. And how younger people are like, yeah, grandpa, that was right? And I don't know if you can force me to change. Imagine that on a much higher level to go to a totally different group, talk about their religious practices, talk about their family practices, talking about their way of living that they've been doing for centuries. When I go to the Philippines, some folks can climb a tree and get a coconut. My big tail is just standing down there to my drop it down. I can't even, live off the land. They know how to live off the land. I can introduce all kind of things, but it doesn't mean that they have to do it. So I totally agree that we have to be careful when we're going places and telling them what we expect them to do, or just invite, even an invite. We still have to be careful to understand what that invite is and how it might impact that society. I totally agree.
Now I want to
Yeah.
add this to it, adding the wokeism that's been applied for the past maybe 5 or 6 years. How would the environment or the climate would feel like knowing that? Trying to be careful.
Hmm.
It doesn't stir something. I'm trying my best not to say the wrong word because I'm trying to get the word out correctly.
Yeah.
Based on the wokeism, how do one address the idea or the mindset behind that? If people from ethnic it considered as a virus,
Hmm.
people from an ethnic community they look at it like, don't bring this virus to our way,
Hmm.
don't bring this disease that will destroy multiple generations to our land. So how
Hmm.
do one address this wokeism ideology that
Yeah.
now that I hate to say that unless people have traveled a lot, I've traveled since I was a kid, and I fully understand when going to another nation, going to another ethnic group, in the United States, we have to be very, very, very careful and be respectful.
Yeah.
Because you just mentioned you deal with the other community, you're not turf. Be careful how you operate, be careful how you
Right.
walk around. With that same type of mindset, how do you deal?
Hmm.
No, how do you operate in that
Yep.
environment without coming off the wrong way?
Yep. So again, okay, so when I go back to actually what wokeism is, or what being a woke is,
Mhm.
if I go back 20,
Mhm.
30 years, it was a totally different group of people who were expressing that term. So if you look at an oppressed group, if you look at a group that hasn't been as recognized, as heard, acknowledged, that says we're woke now, we are just as important as anyone else. And so, boom,
Right.
here's what we do, here's how we live it, and we want you to do it. But when you start taking policies, and then jobs are now adjusting their policies so they make sure that they protect and or recognize. Laws they've either been in place but not enforced. or they've
Right.
created new laws. So either one, you've either had a law that's been around for a long time or is now being
Yeah.
enforced. Workplace harassment has been around forever. That policy has been around since forever. But now how it's enforced looks different to make sure that a certain group of people are protected. So what would have been a complaint 10 years ago, what would have been laughed at as a complaint 10 years ago is now taken very differently because of whatever protections that they want to add. Parenting, what rules and laws you've had before, either the rule was there, the policy was there, but it wasn't enforced the same. So what I say is if you're impacted, and we'll say, well, who's part of that woke culture now? There are a billion groups of people that are part of this woke movement. However, when we talk about the ones who have the power, we talk about the ones who are in position and the ones who can drive that message, the ones the media is pushing, then right now what's highlighted are transgender folks and the feminist movement. So when you think about those two, again, there are others. Remember, 30 years ago, Black people were telling each other, stay woke. So when you have these groups
Mhm.
that doesn't match your preferences, that doesn't match your beliefs or values, then it's really the same way as you would stop a salesman from coming to your door to say, hey, no, thank you. We don't want that. But what you're offering, though, is changing how I parent my kid or the
Yeah.
allowances to my kid. You're changing how you influence them,
Right.
right? So the Sesame Streets all the way to now, Sesame Street, where they was actually teaching you this is a cookie and 1 through 10 and all that, and the kids were learning. Well, we have to remember the same way those TV shows influence people, the same way uh, um, the new shows are influencing people. There have been shows that have been removed because of the
Right.
significant influence. And now, if we're saying we have no say so in that, then I have to either stop supporting those services, I have to stop supporting those networks, I have to stop supporting these because it's impacting. Then, if we take our kids out of the school, then guess what? Even though that sounds like a good idea, you take them out of that school. But if you bring them home and they feel isolated and they feel rejected and they feel alone, then these ideas that come across seem like the answer. I'm hungry for this. So it's almost a double sword where you took them out of that school because you don't like the message they were pushing. However, the kid now feels isolated and all these things alone. They want to feel belonging. They want to feel connected. So then, boom, it's easier to catch on to these other ideas because it looks good. They're heard, they're acknowledged, and I want to be part of that. So communication like crazy with the family. The same way you would with your kid about why you're not buying them an Xbox or why you didn't get them a cell phone. Everyone has a cell phone. This is bogus. This is how we're not everyone. And then talking in the churches and talking in the communities and talking to your friends and your inner circle, talking about how we don't subscribe to this particular ideology. We don't subscribe to this
Mhm.
message. Here's how I can be supportive. So the goal is not to support, but the goal is to say how you put that out there. What is your
Mhm.
intent? Because not only have you been heard, but now we're starting to swing the pendulum the other way to the other
Right.
extreme. You are heard now, but some of it is going to the other extreme. So the
But
sports, Title
yeah.
IX, how hard did the women work
Yeah.
to finally be to be able to play sports and separate than men. And now you have someone who's identified as a man for a long time and then they transitioned. Okay, but
Mhm.
did the physicalness change? If the original complaint was your physical frame is too dominating for us to compete, now you've
Right.
changed, and you say, hey, I actually realize I'm a woman. Cool. But I heard this the other day on somebody's show. They were asking
Mhm.
if Mike Tyson had said now he's a woman, would it be fair to have him go in and box? And the person had a
Right.
good argument and said, if there's a class of women that he qualifies for, or if Mike Tyson would then be a she, that she would qualify for, then sure, if there's a class for that. But the argument is, so we've been afraid of Mike Tyson when he was and he's still a man, but when he was in this story, when he was a man, we were talking about how deadly he is with other men. So
Right.
what chance and we say men are stronger than women. So if you take
Right.
those things that have been historical and then say, okay, it's now okay to do this, then what have we done
Yeah.
to a society? What have we done to the Title IX? What have we done for women? What have we done? So if it impacts more than just you, more than just your family, but a whole culture and or
Right.
society, you have to look at how you push that, and you have to, and both sides have to be understanding of each other. If not, then I have to communicate with my family. I have to work double hard to make sure the media is not influencing them. I have to work double hard to make sure they understand our values. Here's the catch, though. Here's the catch. I'm gonna say pigment. The same way I'm saying don't do that because our family values, other groups are saying you should do this because of our values. So one is going to ask
Right.
who's better than the other, who's better than the other. But I say, well, again, but it's your family. That's the difference. When you can come into my family and influence it in a way and push change, and if I try and stop it, I get penalized. That changes the game. That changes the game. When
Yeah.
you come to my country and make changes, and if I don't, you're going to penalize me. That changes the game.
I'm glad you said that
Right.
because I try not to talk about this topic, but when you have this big couple with complexity of woke culture, I need to act as well because this is not something people from my ethnic background take very lightly. Even though they keep quiet about it, when they're among their own people, the type of conversation you hear, and let's be able to eavesdrop on the conversation, it's not so settled, to be perfectly honest. And
Yeah.
from my upbringing, I would share this upbringing of mine. I was raised whereby my parents, both my mother and father, will tell you if you want to get married, but be from our culture. Don't marry no African American, don't marry no Caribbean, don't marry no Asian. The only exception, which is crazy, is a European white woman.
Mm.
Wait, that was an exception?
That was the exception. People coming from
Hmm.
Nigeria.
Interesting. Okay.
When I
Hey,
explained
I'm
it to
not judging.
people,
Keep going.
Right.
when I explain it to people, the facial expression I get them, they be like,
Yeah.
you have to understand the
Right.
dynamic behind it. You
Right.
look at the colonialism that took place across Africa, based on which country took over what country in Africa.
Mm,
It
Right.
has an effect that is long term,
yeah.
Yep.
That
based
yeah,
on what
yeah.
they see. Part of it is more of
Yeah.
classism.
Right.
So in
It's like a social worker going into a home, and the 3-year-old sees this white, or the 5-year-old sees this Caucasian coming into the home saving
Mhm.
us. And then 20 years later, I want to date a Caucasian woman because in my subconscious mind, the hero has always been someone
Right.
white. Anyone that looks like me, but this
Right.
white person,
in that thing,
Right.
but they're play
Right.
to that when they say European white, they don't want no one of a lower class.
right, right, right,
Yeah.
right.
It's why I say
Yeah.
classism because if you look how the society structure in Africa, it's not the same here. Over there, it's a blessing to be from a prominent family.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
And there are multiple prominent families from different lineage, from different cultural background, different land they came from, whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you're married into a prominent family, that means you'll be doing business with them. That means the
Mm-hmm.
chance of your family lineage will be prosperous, will be a blessing. It's not
Right.
like in the US, everybody going for the celebrity. They don't care about the celebrity status.
Right.
It's more of a cultural. No, I would phrase that. It's more of a generation inherited or passed down the
Right.
next multiple generation. Because
Right. Because they're
people
looking
in
at
Africa,
future success. Right.
bingo, and they're thinking long term.
Yes.
Over here,
Yep.
people think short term.
Right. Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
So
So, Black
when we
David,
look,
I'm gonna pause you for a moment if you don't mind, because I'm aware of time.
Oh, sorry.
And yep, no
Mm-hmm.
worries, no worries. It's good stuff. But I'm aware of time, so I'm gonna ask because I want. We're still gonna do part two to this, so definitely want to
I
Yeah.
hope
have a
I can bring
conversation.
more to it because there's so much I can unload. It just
Yeah, that's for sure.
there's only a few of us like me, Manifesties, who understand our culture on a very intellectual
Hmm.
level. We try
Hmm.
to make it easy for people to understand the mindset behind why people think the way they think. This is why
Mm-hmm.
when you mention woke, it do have a play in it because
Right,
it
right.
was something I thought would not be much of a big deal, but it become beyond a big deal. When people ask me, "What do you think about the law in Uganda?" I'm like, it's not an easy topic to
Right.
talk about.
Yeah, yeah. It's not easy. Yes.
There's
It's
a lot
very
to it for
touchy.
sure.
Yeah.
So I'm glad if you want me to come back on the next show, I'm willing to come
Yes,
here.
sir. I
Maybe I
want to
can
invite you to
contact
still
my
have
other
more of that
brethren
conversation. Yes.
so we can share where I'm coming from because it's not just me alone who sees this.
Right.
It just it's crazy when you look at it that way. You be like, oh, I didn't know it's that serious. I didn't know it.
Right. Yep. That's what I say. It
Yep,
impacts
that sounds
all
good.
relationships, so including the relationship with yourself. But yes, let's do it. So we're gonna do
Yeah.
final thoughts. All right. And so, Coach K, final thoughts.
Really interesting stuff and very, very real. Definitely looking forward to continuing this discussion. And I also want to maybe next time or whenever get into how this is also affecting the APA, and just the profession of psychology and from social work and how that's influencing, that field
Hmm.
amongst these topics, and even maybe next time too is talking about, have you heard of concept creep, Dr. Nakumbi?
Mm-mm.
I
Concept
don't know
creep.
if it's, I've only heard of it like once, but it's
Hmm.
basically talking about changing the meanings of words, even from a psychological or a not a psychological, but even in psychology. You'll just have to look into it. We
Oh,
could
okay.
maybe talk about it sometime. But yeah,
Okay.
so but good stuff overall. Those are my final
Hmm.
thoughts. Thanks everyone, guys, for being here.
Cool. Final thoughts. Again, we're not. Our goal is not to be in a political position here. That's not the goal. The goal here is not to say one group is bad, another one is good, another one is this, another
Mhm.
one is that. We're talking about the complexities and how they
Mhm.
challenge, especially if you already didn't feel heard. If you already didn't feel heard for whatever reason, and then add on top of that, there are either policies or laws that are being enforced that don't allow you to be heard. Things that would have been either looked over because it was small and minor back in the day and it was acceptable, to now how it changes the perceptions, how it changes the rules at work, how it changes the rules at school, how it changes the rules in our government, how it changes the rules in your home, which are going to impact not only your immediate family, but I always say at least two generations forward. We're talking about the complexities of things that you can't control. We're talking about the complexities of things that actually help you to have a reduced voice if you don't go along or if you don't get along or go along. We're talking about things that actually
Mhm.
reduce your value. We're talking about things that are maybe not intended to do that, but
Right.
the process in which someone can be awoke, in the process in which someone can have that power, in the process for someone to be heard. I'm going to make a noise. I don't know how loud it's going to be. Imagine just for me to feel heard. I say, listen up. Hey, listen, listen. But now, even though I may feel empowered in the moment, someone just got reduced in that conversation. If there was someone in that group conversation, someone felt reduced while I felt larger. Someone felt reduced. If I can do this in a way to feel heard without changing the complexities, without impacting the home, without impacting generations, without impacting how you parent or how you're in a relationship or how you're able to do at work, I'm talking about in a positive way, not that you could be wild in any one of those things I mentioned. If it helps those families, helps the school, it helps, great. But we're talking about the complexities in all of these relationships. Let's have the conversation. We'll continue next week. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Much, much
Yes.
appreciated. Please support the network, Black Man Unfiltered Network, and Coach K. Then you know how to find her, and Dr. Nakumbi. Thank you, Black Man, for allowing us to have this space. Please, if there's any
Yes.
heat, send it our way. Send it our way. This is not the networks. We're send it our way.
Right.
Thank you, Black
Right.
David, for being here and for running the
Yes,
No
controls.
thank
Bro. We
you.
problem. To
appreciate
the
you.
people in the audience, to the people if you have any questions, please put on the comment on this video. If they
Yes,
could get your question, they'll come back on the next episode to answer those questions. Please. We need to
absolutely.
have the question to make it show it interesting. And I want to shout out
Absolutely.
to Chaotic Truths. I already missed it, but we would like to have you on the panel next week. And
Oh,
shout out
yes,
to
please, please.
Prestige. If you're hearing this, please, because this topic, you know what I'm coming from with my questioning. So I'm hoping that I can get another African brother who can also add an extra layer of clarity.
Right.
I'm not talking about the political, I'm talking about the social level with people who are in the state,
Right.
who
Yeah.
carry that cultural mindset and they're like representative for the nation here. So other than that, this has been a great show.
All right. Thank you. And again, we'll be having those
Thank
conversations
you,
with the parents. And then
guys.
I want to get to the point of even including the teens because they have a voice too. It used to be, how come you didn't buy me a PlayStation? But now, how come you're not allowing me to do this and that and that and that? A shout out to our
Right.
regulars who show up. Thank you for being here again. The Corey's, the
Yes.
beautiful animators, the Lady Navoas, everyone who normally shows up. Thank you again for being here. Take care, everyone.
Yes,
Peace.
appreciate you.
Coach K, tell your sister said hi. Thank you for her support and watching us.
I
Thank
will. I will. Bye,
Talk to you next
everyone.
time. All right. Bye-bye.
See ya.